I told you I had a job interview, so
Yes. How did it go?
I think it went really well. I hope. At the end of the interview, he was like, well, I want to bring up one more thing because I saw it on your LinkedIn, and I was like, fuck, what's on my LinkedIn?
No.
I'm like, uh-oh, what did I put on there? My LinkedIn's pretty just work related. And then he was like, you have as one of your skill keywords self-defense. And I was like, well, I left that on there. Okay. He was like, if you don't mind telling me, what martial arts styles have you studied? And I was like, you just want to geek out at me about martial arts. So we geeked out about martial arts for like 5 minutes at the end of the interview.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he like, David was like, oh, he just wants you to beat him up. And I was like, no, he's a nerd who wanted to talk to me about his favorite weapon forms.
He just wants you to beat him up.
Welcome to
Bonus Experience.
Ooh. This is a podcast with a deeper look at the play experience and the finer details of running and writing games.
We are queer women speaking with authority about games.
Hell yeah, we are. And yes, we swear.
Die mad about it.
I'm Monica. I do a lot of stuff professionally. I do a lot of stuff professionally, but you might
check out your LinkedIn for more on what you do and your self-defense techniques.
My self-defense tag on my LinkedIn may have just gotten me a job, but you might also know me as the Exalted Essence mechanical developer.
I'm Ray. I also do just a lot of things. I got my hands in a lot of pies. Mostly I work on setting and adventure design. Here I am.
Here you are. Both I and Megan talked about how great you were on the dev list.
Oh, thank you. I would love to expand that into more fiction. Right now, I mean, it's great to be able to say, like, yeah, I do setting and adventure design, because I love doing that. But, you know, my heart lies in fiction, and I've only done, like, one bit of fiction, like, forever ago. Let me do fiction. All right.
So what, like last week, you discovered who Ron Edwards is?
Oh, God. Yeah, last week. Yeah,
I think it was just last week. Yeah, so here we are.
Yeah, I was so blessed to never have known this man.
I'm kind of surprised that you didn't, but welcome. So we're going to talk about what the fuck is a traditional game anyway.
What does that have to do with the fact that I just learned who that guy is, though?
Because his whole thing that made you so mad was about how they're terrible.
How traditional games are terrible.
Pretty much.
That's right. Well, I mean, that's putting it in that's a very charitable reading of Mr. Edwards' work.
It is.
He had a lot more to say than just, hey, I don't like these games.
Right. I would rather not focus on him at all, but you reading that terrible thing is the inciting incident that got us here.
Yes.
Because it sparked a really great discussion on our Discord about what is a traditional game anyway, and then we were like, well, should we do an episode about it? And everyone was like, yeah, of course.
All right, well, here we are.
Here we are. So do traditional games deserve all the derision heaped upon them? But I do sort of see poo-pooingness from other people on like the RPG Twitters and other discourse, and even sort of a lingering thing from when I used to hang out. A long time ago, a glacial age, when Google Plus still existed, I still saw sort of people being like, a traditional game. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this means.
Yeah, okay. I'm for it.
Okay.
Monica.
Yes.
What the fuck is a traditional game?
Oh, God.
How do you even break that down?
All right. Well, I'm going to say traditional games basically have the following essential components. And please note that these are really broad categories.
My favorite kind.
Yeah. So 1, all traditional games have remaining strands of wargame DNA. 2, all traditional games to some degree assume gameplay lasts for an extended period of time. 3, traditional games place a focus on goal-driven growth. 4, traditional games core systems usually cover more than one topic in notable detail. And this is like the really long one. And then I have a last one at the end, which we'll talk about a little bit more too, which is like the least important one. So I tacked that one on at the end. But there is also a fifth point, which will be a surprise for the end of the episode.
Okay.
So I'm going to drag Ray along with me on this journey of definitional exploration.
I'm ready. I'm strapped in. Let's do this.
All right.
So first of all, what do you mean by they all have remaining strands of board game DNA? What's
okay.
board game DNA?
All right. So we all know from a previous episode that most role-playing games descended from war games the way pugs descended from gray wolves. So which does make it sound sort of like a qualitative description, but it's not. Just like this one very different thing became this other adorable new thing. So like if you have never played a war game, like it is a competitive thing. Two people are playing armies or units or a group of heroes or whatever, but you have a whole bunch of units on the table and you are usually competing over objectives. In more modern design or in historical design, you are actually using strategies and trying to recreate famous historical battles. And you basically are like, this is the French and Indian War AU, where the Indians win.
Oh shit, okay.
Sorry, I should have said natives. I was referring to like the title of the thing.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
so like they often involve things like, depending on the type of game, they involve things for like formations and whatnot, or some are more focused on like accomplishing certain objectives. But it is one person versus the other person using some degree of like complex decision making to win. I enjoy them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a board game.
Yeah, no.
It's just a completely different kind of game.
Right. So if your role-playing game has rules for cover, considers how far your character can move, maybe concerns itself with making attacks from a certain position. Does it care about the difference between running, flying, and swimming? Does it assume that violence will break out at any point, maybe even necessitate such a thing? Does it have different rules for vehicles and people? What about fighting big groups of people? And how much importance does it place on randomization? And does it sort of put a little bit of competitiveness between the enemies and the players? If you answered yes to most of these questions, you might have a traditional game.
Talk to your doctor. See if narrative gaming is right for you.
So let's... You were humming as I was saying all these things. Because those are strands of wargame DNA. Like, some games have all of them, and some games only have a couple. So let's talk about some good examples of games that are pretty obviously traditional, and some games that actually have some of these elements that might surprise you.
As in a good game, or here's a solid example?
Here's a solid example.
Because obviously D&D.
Oh, obviously D&D, duh.
Obviously.
No points.
You had me at, does it care about the difference between running, flying, and swimming?
Right.
Fuck.
I mean, like, D&D is, of course, the core example of the role-playing game that perhaps retains a ton of its wargame DNA, because that's where the direct line of a descendancy is right there.
Yeah, man. Like, it's been pretty recently that they even suggested, oh, you might not use minis while playing this game.
Right.
Right? Like, 4th edition was like, you need minis on a battle map.
Yeah. And I don't think that's a qualitatively bad choice.
No, I'm just saying that when you say war game, my first instinct is, oh, something that uses minis and like a battle map of some kind.
Yeah.
Like, that's a war game to me. Everyone
who ever said to me that 4th edition is a board game or an MMO can eat my entire ass, it's not. It's a war game.
It's a lot of war game.
It's more like a war game than anything else. Please go fuck yourselves. So
please, I'm begging you.
So actually, I was reading through Blue Rose, and I was like, wow, this is a traditional game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. Like, Blue Rose has weapon tables, my love. Like, just like, I opened a chart and it was like, oh, here's the equipment table. Like, I believe it has rules for cover. It, like, gives a shit about called shots and stuff. Like, it's got a real crunchy. It's real fucking crunchy. I was alarmed.
Oh, boy.
I still want to play it. Don't get me wrong.
I feel like the next step in that reaction chain would be my reaction to opening Shadowrun for the first time.
Oh, God,
the previous edition. Whatever edition it is now, I haven't given it a shot, which maybe isn't
I
fair.
hear the current one's terrible, so...
Oh God, the last edition was like I opened it up and it was just like charts referencing charts, and it's infamously the only like game book that I've returned to the store because I was like, this is not for me. This is not my game.
So my favorite unpopular opinion is that like actually PBTA games are kind of traditional games. Sorry.
Oh, really? Why do you say that?
Well, maybe we should put a pin in that and talk about that at the end after I've defined all the points.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's get on to the next point. You say traditional games assume that gameplay will last for an extended period of time. Do you mean like campaigns?
Yes, I definitely mean like campaigns. I don't mean like we'll play for 4 hours. No, I mean like a campaign. Oh, and by the way, the term campaign comes from war games. So...
Oh, well, yeah, no shit. Yeah, okay, war campaign. Yeah,
right,
that's the sound of me just now putting that together.
Yeah. No, like a campaign where you would like play through your historical war game simulation and you would like play through the Battle of Waterloo for the next 2 weeks, you know?
Right.
Like
the war campaign.
The war campaign, that's where that comes from. So do you ever feel like you just don't have the energy for a role-playing game campaign? You can't
all the fucking time.
Like you can't keep up running a game for more than 3 sessions, then you probably have only ever encountered traditional games, which still having a genetic bond with war games assumes some degree of campaign play. Imagine that. But for a counter example, consider games like Lasers and Feelings or Starcrossed, both wonderful games, which are meant to be played in a single session, convey a very particular experience, and then be over. And so I would not consider that traditional at all.
Okay. All right.
So let's contrast that to Exalted 3rd Edition, or literally any version of Dungeons and Dragons, or even, which are 2 games designed literally to be played for decades, or even Blades in the Dark, which is meant to be played over and over and over again.
That's true.
You are meant to play that for an extended period of time. A one-shot of Blades is sort of unsatisfying.
A one-shot of Blades, you have to kind of curate your character creation and crew creation. Because there's a lot of options that are, between jobs, do this. But when you have downtime, do that. Right.
And Blades and clocks and stuff, Blades assumes campaign play. This sort of campaign play design is very traditional, which is not a value judgment, again. It just is what it is.
And I had never considered extended period of time to be a traditional game thing. But it makes sense. The whole war campaign versus game campaign. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thanks. Do we want to do our mid-episode break real quick before we jump into the back half of the episode?
Yeah, okay. Bonus Experience is a part of the Misdirected Mark Network.
Bing!
If you like what we're doing, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/bonusexperience, right?
Yeah.
Did I do that right?
You did do that right.
Yeah, even $1 gets you access to really cool shit that we do pretty frequently now that we're working from home.
Yeah, we've been doing live quarantine hangouts. That's really the big thing. We do extended cuts of every episode.
We used to only do that like once every blue moon. Now it's like every other week. Like, you want to just do this one live, like for the Patreon? And it's like, oh yeah, okay. And we do extended cuts all the time.
Yep.
And we've been putting up polls for certain tiers on our Patreon for, what should we cover next? And sometimes we just straight up just ask our Patreon channel in Discord. Like, hey, should we, like, this episode you're hearing right now is a direct result of us going, hey, should we talk about this instead? And people in the Discord going, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So support us.
Yes.
Throw $1 in there. And we also understand shit's cray-cray right now.
It is.
So if you can't donate, also, it's not like we're going to find you and hunt you down. We're just glad that you're listening.
Yeah.
And if you are facing that point where you're like, I don't have $1, which I don't have $1, leave us a review.
Yeah.
Reviews are a great way to boost our visibility on places like iTunes and Spotify. And it gets us more listeners who potentially do have $1. So in a roundabout way, you're kind of giving us $1 by doing that.
Yeah, perfect.
Right? Makes sense.
Totally.
Right? My stuff from Nerdy Cappy arrived. I'm very excited.
Did you get a cool mask?
I did get a cool mask. How did you know?
Because I got a cool mask from Nerdy Cappy too.
I got the floral print in Bi Pride colors.
Nice.
It's my going out mask. I'm accepting that it'll be a real long time before I feel comfortable not wearing a mask. So now I have my I gotta go to the store real quick mask. And I have my I'm going to go out somewhere nice mask. My dress up mask. I also got an unofficial Team Scion mug. It's beautiful. Now I'm part of Team Scion. And we talk of Nerdy Kepi a lot for their like cool, gay, geekery stuff. I was also able to get in contact with Spider, who basically runs Nerdy Kepi and like designs all their new shit and stuff. And I asked him, like, can I commission you to make a new thing? And now, because of that, there are donut prints on Nerdy Kepi. You can get Pride donuts. You can get stickers. You can get shoes. I think now, he said something about they're going to have bowling shirts.
Yes.
Nerdy Kepi's awesome. Please go to Nerdy Kepi. NERDYKEPPIE.com. And plus, if you use code BXPcast at checkout, you get 10% off everything, and that code never expires.
Never expires. It is always good. You should also, if you like us and how much we talk about Exalted, listen to our collab show with Mage the Podcast, hi Terry, and The Story Told, hi Chaz, called The Systematic Understanding of Everything, which is explaining all of Exalted step by step in a charming 101 way.
Yeah.
That is, I believe it is exaltcast.com.
And honestly, it kind of like, it gives me like warm, like Freedom Stone nostalgia feelings.
Oh yeah?
That was a passion project that was born out of trying to get my friends up to speed on Exalted.
Oh yeah?
Much in the same way that Systematic Understanding of Everything is doing. So I like it.
The systematic plan is to get like all the big topics out of the way and then have like a bunch of people on for a bunch of like guest episodes and then have it be like this like, I don't know, 20 episode short run and then be done. So
it's a prestige podcast.
It's a prestige podcast.
Which
got started because Terry was like, Monica and Chaz, do you want to do a 101 Exalted podcast to teach me how to be good at Exalted? And we were both like, do you want to produce it? And he was like, yeah. And we were like, all right, cool. So
Terry's pretty cool. You should be in on Mage the Podcast. Not only because it's Terry's podcast and Terry's a cool guy, and also it's about Mage the Awakening, which is what's
it's about Mage the Ascension.
Mage the Ascension. I'm sorry. I don't know shit about Mage. I don't know shit about Mage, which is impressive because Terry still had me on Mage the Podcast. Listen out for a future episode with me, Ray, talking about world building as it pertains to a game property that I don't know a whole lot about. So it was still, I had a blast. Terry's a really good guy. We had a lot of fun talking about world building. And yeah. But for a show that's actually like on our network.
Yeah. You should also listen to Gnomecast. Several gnomes from Gnome Stew get together to talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and avoid being thrown in the stew.
What's Gnome Stew like? Is it kind of gamey?
Yeah, it's like it's like Pandas and BXP if it were more about like general stuff and less about like the two hosts talking about one topic in weird excruciating detail.
I knew that you were gonna take it the literal way when I was asking what would it be like to have a stew with gnomes in it.
Oh, you meant like literally the stew,
like
not about the show. I'm sorry, anyway. It's 12:40. We have three more topics.
Charming. Oh, okay. And now back to our show. Monica.
Yes.
What does it mean to have a focus on goal-driven growth?
So this is a very roundabout way of saying leveling up, but like don't take that literally. It's any kind of character advancement, which could be spending XP on more dots in a White Wolf game, which is just as much goal-driven growth as reaching level 10 in D&D or leveling up your playbook. Traditional games put a lot of focus on your character getting stronger and acquiring more abilities over time. You grow, and the challenges you face will grow with you. Everything you do in the game is to gain experience, or whatever the fuck the game calls it. That allows you to do
advancement points.
Advancement, yeah. That allows you to do more things more better. Like that's you surely are familiar with this phenomenon.
I want to do more things more better. How does I get more stronger? Sorry.
Here's a good example. Apocalypse World and Blaze of the Dark still do this.
Yeah, they still have, there's an
again, it's not a bad thing. In fact, I kind of like being having these things to work towards. Like, oh, I want to unlock that move on my playbook.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like, oh, I can't wait to buy that charm. I'm so excited to get it. Like that, I want to level up and get this new feat or whatever. Like that's cool. That's fun. By the same token, non-traditional games usually tend to convey a very particular experience, and the growth or change that you might go through is transformative or experienced. It's not necessarily codified into bigger numbers on your sheet.
Oh, okay.
Let's use Senda's Turning Point as an example, a counterexample rather, which is literally a game about making a hard decision. So, like, your character or whatever you're playing in that game has to make a hard decision and is going to grow or change because of it. Like, that's the point of the game. And so when you make your turning point and you make your hard choice, and whatever that does to impact you emotionally is not a level up, but it is growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That kind of, I'm trying to think of it as, because I'm thinking now of like video games.
Right.
Because most of the video games I play have some sort of a goal-driven growth. Like,
right.
Oh, you unlocked this new skill, or you have this new ability, or you have this loot now. And trying to think of games that don't have that. And I'm coming up on like
Animal Crossing.
Mist. Like weird, like Animal Crossing is actually very good. Yeah, instead of it being like, you got this new ability, you just learn new things.
Yeah.
You learn new ways to interact with your environment. That like puzzle games like Myst or like The Witness, where you don't get skill points. You personally, the player, learn how to navigate that environment or how to interact with it in a
Phoenix Wright
way. Phoenix Wright. Yeah, a lot of visual novels probably have the same, like you just learn personally, you learn information on how to interact with it, as opposed to it being something mechanical.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you also said, what did you say? That core systems cover more than one topic?
Yeah, this is a sort of a bad way to write this, and I should have redone it, but whatever.
Do you mean like they aren't laser focused on a single experience?
Yes.
Or story theme?
Is exactly what I mean.
So like an umbrella game.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like that is a really, really wide umbrella, but y'all never notice how a lot of games want to have the investigation system, the social system, the combat system, the crafting system, the mass combat system, the naval combat system, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Focusing on all these things as being entirely different or needing their own robust subsystems is a hallmark of traditional design. Please spend a moment imagining what Bluebeard's Bride might be like if it had a crafting subsystem.
So many games just don't need a crafting system.
No, they don't.
And then the ones that don't have one, people are like, where's the crafting system? Like D&D doesn't have a crafting system, but everyone wants to know, well, how do I make a magic sword? You fucking don't. This doesn't, of all the systems D&D has, you really want to add crafting?
So this is a really big umbrella, and like,
yeah,
actually it's one of the cases where D&D doesn't really do this.
It's just a combat system.
Yeah, and then a skill resolution system, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Spellcasting, that's its other weird little subsystem.
Oh, I hate
it's terrible. It's terrible, yeah. But it's still there.
It's true. It's still there.
Right. And so, like, it's basically just those three. So I wrote that, and I was like, oh, my White Wolf is showing. My Onyx Path is showing. But, like, Onyx Path and White Wolf games are not the only type of traditional games that are like, here's 4 different subsystems in the same book that are going to cover everything you might possibly want to do in a game. And actually, Fate, which is still a traditional game, basically says all these things are resolved the same.
Yeah, Fate can have subsystems. And the Fate Toolkit explains how to make these subsystems if you desire to have them in your game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of examples on how to build a magic system into your Fate game.
Mm-hmm.
But out of the box, Fate doesn't have any of that. Fate assumes that you're going to use the exact same system in every single conflict and encounter.
Right.
Which is honestly, like, I respect that.
So, to counterpoint my own example, D&D and Fate, both of which are all like, it's basically just this one system, use it for whatever. Even though D&D is like, it's a combat system, stop trying to cram other things into it. And Fate is like, actually, it's a really good general system, do with it as you will.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these two things that both are like, same system for everything, shrug, PBTA, same.
Yeah, yeah.
All of these things also assume that characters will do all these other things. Like, Fate still assumes that there will be, like, social encounters that will need to be overcome, or perhaps an investigation scene where you might have to hunt down who the murderer is, and that you're also going to perhaps get into a fight. And so, like, the assumption that characters will do sort of everything on this broad scale, I think is pretty traditional, as opposed to, hey, I'll just go back to Bluebeard's Bride because I just made a joke about that, which is literally about playing this one very particular experience.
Well, I don't know. I would push back against Fate assuming anything about your game. I think the only assumption Fate makes is that you have a game.
Right. But by virtue
like,
of
you don't even have to have, like, characters, really.
Yes, you do. How else? What are you going to do with Fate without characters?
Well, I mean, in the sense of, okay, let me walk that back. Fate doesn't assume that you will have individual sentient people as
fair.
Your character.
True. You could play a really weird high concept Fate game.
You could play a Fate game where, like, everyone is a nation or a linguistic concept. Like, Fate makes really no assumptions beyond the fact that, like, you have a game, and I mean, I think that's it. Like,
right. So, someone I did the designer AMA, and someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, you called D&D fighting and math. What other games would you break down by those principles?" And then listed Fate as one of the examples. And I called Fate a masterclass in general system design.
Yeah,
because it fucking is.
Yeah. Yep.
As you just pointed out, you could totally use Fate to play a game where everyone is the concept of a nation, or just a concept.
Yeah,
but that's because it's
I'm
basically
like
just
expanding my own brain over here now, thinking about it.
But that's because it's literally just a core engine, still pretty rooted in a lot of traditional design, because it touches on a bunch of the other points that I mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
That, like, basically just says any scenario you have is valid. Here are the tools, and, like, there you go. But compare it to, like, Dread.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Or 10 Candles.
10 Candles. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. These are very specific themes, very specific concepts, and even specific genre of, like, Dread and 10 Candles are both about an inevitable terrible thing is going to happen.
Right.
And the mechanic of pulling blocks out of a Jenga tower or waiting for candles to blow out are basically just timing mechanisms.
Yes, pretty much.
You couldn't play a D&D game using Dread.
You couldn't. You could play a very focused version of Dread where the players are doomed adventurers in a dungeon, and when the Jenga table collapses, a party member dies or disappears, or you are currently facing diminishing resources, but then that would still be just like a D&D themed horror.
I think we just figured out how to make Darkest Dungeons a tabletop role-playing game.
I think we did. Remember that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. Anyway.
What were we talking about?
The last point. The secret last point.
The secret last point. Placing an importance on randomization.
Yeah. This is also kind of like the least important point, because randomization is present in lots of games. And what do I mean by randomization? I mean a die roll, a card flip, rock, paper, scissors, anything that changes the outcome from being agreed upon to being random. Sure, you can do a lot of things where you're like, oh, the relationship mechanic in this game is not based on randomization. If two characters want to fall in love, they have to have a discussion about why that is out of character, which is still a mechanic, my friends. Mm-hmm. It's just not randomized, right? So, like, if the rules of your game are, like, two players who want to engage in a romance have to agree out of character and consent to it, guess what? That's your rule. That's your mechanic. But it's not randomized. No one has to roll to fall in love, is basically what that says.
Right.
Right. And the uncertainty of randomization is really fucking fun. It creates uncertainty, and that's enjoyable to engage with. Consider how many people like, and unfortunately get hooked on, gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just because a game has an element of randomization doesn't necessarily qualify it as a traditional game. I played in the playtest for Galileo Games' Art of Power, which I don't think is out yet. I'm not sure. But that, like, was very much purely a game about collaborative narration. But there was a whole thing about, like, it's about privilege and power and having power over people. And so part of that, it was like a wagering mechanic where to get someone to do something, you basically clashed. And if you had greater privilege, you have more power to bid. And then there was, like, a card flip that determined who won the outcome, weighted by your wager. So,
wow, okay.
there's still a randomization element there, but it was literally used to build tension between two characters, not to, determine if we beat the monster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, that randomization element created tension, but I wouldn't call Art of Power a traditional game.
Right, okay.
Right.
Okay.
But TLDR, we like rolling dice, all right?
Yeah, we like the math rocks.
Yeah, if the ideas of, critical hits or dramatic failures really matter, or the idea that misses or hits determine the way your scenes go or progress from one to the other, then you've probably got yourself a traditional design.
Well, Monica.
Yeah.
Thank you for teaching me about traditional games.
You're welcome. I've been putting this definition together for a while now.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I have even more authority to talk about games. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You've only made me stronger.
Good. It's hard to be a traditional game stan on Twitter because everyone thinks you suck.
The struggle.
Oh, so PBTA being a traditional game. Let's put this little bow on it.
Okay, quick.
Right, real quick, because there's an importance on randomization. Because your characters level up. And because it occasionally assumes violence, not all of them, but a lot of them. And what was my last one?
Gameplay lasts for an extended period.
Gameplay lasts for an extended period of time. Yep.
Yep. Interesting.
Yep. Blaze in the Dark too.
Interesting. I'm intrigued, and I'm looking forward to all the spicy hot takes and everyone adding you on Twitter.
No one's gonna at me on Twitter because nobody gives a shit. So
the people who listen to our podcast surely do not.
I mean, the people who listen to our podcast will probably argue with me in the Discord, which is fine. That's okay.
If you want to argue with Monica in the Discord, I think there's a link on our Twitter. I don't
remember.
When this episode goes out, I'll be sure to update the Twitter with, here's how you can argue with Monica.
Sure.
In the meantime, you can find our show
at bxpcast.com.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't updated the website yet.
In a long time. Yeah.
It's been listen.
Yeah.
The economy.
Yeah.
We're part of the Misdirected Mark network, though.
Bing.
And you can go to the Misdirected Mark website for updates on our new episodes. If you're not subscribed to us on iTunes or Spotify or Podbean or Pod Listener or Podcaster or Cat Listener or Catcaster or whatever your podcast attribute or your podcast
Yep. So you can go to misdirectedmark.com and click on the BXP icon.
Thanks for yes-anding me.
You're welcome.
Monica, what about email? Where could they
can shoot us an email at bonusexpcast@gmail.com.
And our Twitter, as always.
You can add us angrily at bonusexpcast.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Monica, where's your Twitter?
My Twitter is at @ZenithSun.
And you can send her a spicy take.
Please don't.
My Twitter is Ray W. Cole.
Got rid of that underscore.
Yeah, it's been a while now.
Yeah.
I'm having fond memories of the underscore.
Okay.
I'll remember the days. Everybody get out.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta go to brunch.
You have a date.
I have it with my mother.
And everybody change it if you
Change it if you want to.
Change it if you want to.
Maybe make it a less traditional game. I don't know. It's up to you.
Or make it more traditional. Fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Do it.
Fuck the haters.
Fuck the haters. Do what makes you happy.
Fuck the haters!
All right, good night.
Do I have to do this? Ugh, fine. Bonus Experience is written and produced by Monica and Ray, and edited by Margaret. Our logo and art is by Nino Studios. Find her on Facebook and Instagram. Our theme song is Reuse Noise with the Light by CDK, and is used under the Attribution Non-Commercial Creative Commons license. BXP is part of the Misdirected Mark network. I'm not reading this. Fuck it. Bye.